This didn't work at all. Despite a mixed critical reception and the pre-release controversy surrounding it, Todd Phillips' Joker was an undeniable success upon its initial 2019 release. Multiple Oscar wins, including Best Actor for Joaquin Phoenix and a billion-dollar box office return on a measly $55 million budget, made it clear that DC and Warner Bros. Taking a risk on this looser, standalone interpretation of the iconic clown prince of crime paid off, and that it only made sense to try and replicate that success. However, 2024's Joker Folie à Deux, or simply Joker 2, was a massive failure on nearly every level.
Boo! You stink!
After expanding the budget to a whopping $200 million before marketing, it only made about $206 million worldwide. And was reviled by both critics and audiences for its dull drama, poorly implemented musical elements, and virtually everything in between. Look no further than the matching 32% Rotten Tomatoes score for the film from these two groups for proof of that. So what happened here? Why was such a runaway success followed up by such a catastrophic failure? To understand this, we'll need to break down Joker 2's issues into three distinct categories: the foundation set by the first film, the incorporation of Harley Quinn into the story, and the conflict between the musical elements and the courtroom drama. So sit back and have a laugh as we dive into what went wrong with Joker 2. Oh, and massive spoiler warning, by the way, if that wasn't clear. The biggest issue that any potential sequel to Joker faced from the outset is simply that the original film was not made with a sequel in mind. In fact, the original film being standalone was part of the point. In an interview with the LA Times, director Todd Phillips said he conceived Joker based on the question, what if you did a comic book movie differently? Moreover, Joaquin Phoenix became attracted to the role partially because, unlike something like the MCU's Doctor Strange, which he previously declined, he wouldn't have to commit to multiple films right away. And this desire to keep things connected is reflected in the film itself. There's no Batman, no other villains, no extended universe guest stars, no sequel teases, no post-credit scenes, absolutely nothing to suggest the possibility of more. In fact, much of the film is deliberately left ambiguous, with entire subplots turning out to be the title character's own delusions, as a nod to the multiple-choice nature of Joker's past in the comics, making a follow-up that much more difficult. Joker 2's solution to this problem is to effectively reset Arthur's character arc, with him having abandoned his Joker persona and reverted back to the sad loner from the beginning of the original film. This not only undermines many of the ambiguous elements from the first film, it also renders the arguably best concept for a sequel, a fully realized Joker inflicting his reign of terror on the streets of Gotham, entirely moot. But Joker 2 does deliver on the other obvious path for a Joker sequel with the introduction of Harley Quinn. Unfortunately, her inclusion creates an entirely new set of problems. Harley's vibrant, manic, and sassy personality quickly made her a fan favorite when she debuted in Batman the Animated Series back in 1992. And through her introduction into mainline comics canon and appearances in other media, she's become one of the most surprisingly nuanced female characters in the superhero genre. Her chaotic energy and sense of humor are still very much there, but through recognizing and standing up to the abuse she suffered under Joker during their relationship, becoming her own person, and eventually forming a much healthier romance with Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn has become far more than the funny sidekick she once was. She's not even really a villain anymore, being both a regular member of the Suicide Squad and even fighting alongside the Justice League from time to time. But none of these elements are present in Joker 2's version of Harley Quinn, or Lee Quinzel as the film calls her. She's not a psychiatrist who tries to heal Joker only to fall for him, nor is she a fellow abused victim as she claims to be early on in the film. Instead, she's a wealthy psychiatry major who checked herself into Arkham voluntarily because she admires what Joker did during the first movie. The relationship dynamic as a whole is reversed from most incarnations, with Lee frequently manipulating Arthur into embodying the Joker persona against his wishes. Yet, at the same time, Lee has no real agency in this story. She exists to get Arthur to his lowest point and not much else. She has no motivations, wants, or needs that aren't connected to him in some way. This approach makes Harley Quinn completely unrecognizable from her beloved previous incarnations, while also making Lee Quinzel a boring character in her own right. A story intended to be about two people where one of them solely exists as a prop for the other's development is not a well-told story. On top of that, Lee only has 2 or 3 songs over the course of the film's nearly 2.5-hour runtime, which makes casting living pop legend Lady Gaga in the role feel like a wasted effort. Speaking of songs, Joker 2 is simultaneously a jukebox musical and a courtroom drama. Neither of these elements work particularly well, or on their own, or when combined for a number of reasons. Firstly, the songs are not well integrated into the story. A good musical is supposed to make the songs feel like a natural part of the storytelling, whether they are meant to be literally happening in universe or not. They tell us something about the characters and move the story forward. And for a musical film specifically, they ideally should feel like major set pieces that showcase the world the story takes place in and take full advantage of the scope of the cinematic medium compared to the limitations of the stage. The recent film adaptations of In the Heights and Wicked provide excellent examples of how to do this right, with the musical numbers in both featuring elaborate choreography and huge, expansive sets, while also constantly giving us new insights into the characters and the plot. But Joker 2's musical sequences generally don't feel visually distinct from the rest of the movie. Most of the songs, even ones deliberately meant to be dream sequences, are shot with flat and static angles with very little camera movement, often feeling more like a filmed stage production than a proper movie. And only the most basic and minimal of dance choreography with no real big ensemble numbers. Musicals are inherently meant to be heightened storytelling, and the film constantly refuses to allow itself to be heightened. Then there's the matter of what's actually being sung. Now, since Joker 2 is a jukebox musical, it inherently can't make the songs as intrinsically linked to the characters and story as In the Heights or Wicked, wherein the songs are specifically written to tell those respective stories. Most jukebox musicals usually work around this by limiting the music choices to a specific band or artist, like Mamma Mia did with ABBA, to help give the songs a connective through line with one another. The Joker 2's musical selections are not only random, they also feel like they come out of nowhere in the film itself. In something like Wicked, songs happen because the emotions of the scene naturally build to them. But here, people start singing seemingly because they got bored and often stop singing just as abruptly. To be fair, it's hard to blame the characters for being bored by the courtroom drama that makes up the rest of Joker 2. Most of the courtroom scenes consist entirely of characters recapping the events of the first movie in excruciating detail. Anyone who's going to see a sequel to Joker already knows what happened in Joker. There is no point in continuously reminding the audience of this information without adding any new substantive material, especially when these recaps happen while the film is already halfway through its runtime. Instead of seeing the Joker be the Joker in the movie with Joker in the title, we're forced to listen to how Arthur became the Joker the first time before finally seeing him become the Joker again for exactly one scene of Joaquin Phoenix doing a folksy country lawyer impression that goes on for too long to be funny and is too ridiculous to be menacing. And none of the prolonged courtroom deliberations even matter because Arthur isn't the Joker at the end. In fact, it turns out he was never the Joker to begin with. It was actually some random other guy in Arkham the entire time, effectively rendering both Joker films entirely pointless. The original Joker is far from a perfect movie. Its depiction of mental illness often feels questionable, the commitment to realism feels frequently at odds with the attempts to tell a Joker origin story, and as RogerEbert.com's Glenn Kenny put it, it often focuses, quote, less in entertainment than in generating self-importance. But if there's one thing we can all agree on regarding Joker, it's that the sequel was much worse. Joker 2 is a musical ashamed to be a musical, a courtroom drama constantly bored with itself, a sequel too afraid to move its characters forward, and a comic book movie that actively scorns the source material and the audience who enjoys it. It follows up a film that didn't need a sequel purely on the basis of how well the original did financially, and that is clearly shown in the lackluster material presented on screen and the overwhelmingly negative response to it. With clashing tones, wasted performances, and an overall sense of nobody wanting to bother, it's abundantly clear exactly why Joker 2 failed and precisely what went wrong with it. Now, we want to hear from you. What did you think of Joker 2? Do you think it's as bad as everyone's made it out to be? Or is it simply misunderstood? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you can see great videos like this as soon as they go up. But until next time, thanks for watching.